I love this dress. I made it to wear on my honeymoon, and I wore it all during my honeymoon, but not too much long after because I totally set the bias tape wrong in the neckline. As you can see here, it's kind of fraying, it's looking a little funky. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to fix the bias tape, set it correctly, and then hopefully you won't make the same mistake on your dress. And then hopefully I'll be able to wear this dress again. It's been like 3 years, I think. Yeah, 3 years. And it's a perfect summertime dress. And I'm like, oh, I spent so much time making that dress. But yeah, anything worth doing is worth doing twice. I mean, that's why we all sew. I swear, you guys, I've been sewing for 20 years. Now that this is all chopped up and pinned, I am ready to sew this together, and I'm that much closer to my own bias tape. Now I'm going to draw 1-inch lines so I know where to cut this after I've sewn it the second time. It's a little tricky because it wants to stretch as I mark it, but show who's boss. It just needs a little bit of tough love, and then it becomes this impossible tube. Now that this is an impossible tube, I can sew this up and I will be I can start cutting it. Not bias, there's too many things. I'm gonna have bias tape soon. I'm just excited. Now for my next trick, I'm going to cut along these lines. And then I'll have a strip of bias tape. I'll tell you how long this is. I don't know. I couldn't even guess. I'm thinking it's going to be about 100 inches. Because like it's 10 by 10. And it's 1-inch bias. So it's like 80-ish inches of bias. So my math is a little off, but maybe so is my measuring. Now that my bias tape is all made, I am going to take this time and prep my dress, taking off the old bias neckline, and then we can start putting on the new one. I can start putting on the new one. Let's do this together. Come over, I need help. This is slow going, but I don't want to rip anything. I've pulled everything free, the bias tape, all of the 1,000 little threads that were on here, and now I'm ready to sew my invisible bias tape on. But I know what you're asking, like I can totally see this bias tape, it's not invisible. I know, right? What we're gonna do is I am going to put right sides together. I'll have to find where the center back is, and then I'm going to sew this and then pull all this to the inside. Okay, what was that? I did it so fast. Let's do it step by step. Step 1 is to find the center back of my dress. And I'm gonna use the super scientific method of putting my shoulder seams together here and then folding these two together so they match nicely. And then putting a pin here at what is allegedly the center back. Now I need a straighter pin for this. Lots of my pins are questionable. So here is the center back of my dress between the two shoulder seams. Okay, starting at the center back, I am going to put right sides together This looks a little funky. I'm going to give myself a little wiggle room here. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to pin it all the way around so I can then sew this. Right, correct. Let me just do this. I have to make sure. So I'm going to fold everything to the inside, and then that's going to fold in. Yes, okay, I pinned it right. I'm going to pin all the way around this neckline, and then I can stitch it. I haven't even folded the bias tape yet because I like to do that after I've stitched it in, just to make it a little bit more nice. It looks nicer when I do it that way. I'm going to stop at the V-neck here because I need to do the fancy fold backy, foldy, dippity doo-dah that I did in my other video. I'll put a poppy-uppy thing right here so you can go to it. I'm going to stitch this in, and then I can go ahead and do the other side. This pin is my center back pin, so I'm going to back off of that. I'm not going to start stitching right there because I'm feeling a little fancy. Let's see if this trick works. I'm thinking the width of the foot. Yeah, the width of the foot is going to be my seam allowance. And I'm going to start stitching this once I stop flapping my gums. Oh yeah, it totally works. Okay. I'm going to go around to the V, and then I will stop and I will show you how to set that V-neck. Okay, concentrate. I'm so close to the V. Okay, here is my pin marking the V. I have to stop at this pin. I think I can do it. Okay, I'm going to hand walk it. Oh, wait, one more? Oh, so bold. And backstitch. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take this out. I need to make sure you can see step one. So I need to fold this back. And then I need to give it the ye olde hot finger press. Yes, the hot finger press is my favorite. Now I need to fold it back on itself, and I'm going to go this way. Ho ho, ho ho, ho ho. Look at that. A plus for me. Now I need to pin here, and that's where I start stitching to continue on sewing on this bias tape. I'm going to keep pinning this till I make it all the way around to the center back, and then I think I'm going to do fancy. I'm feeling fancy today. I'm feeling fancy. Let's get fancy. I'm starting at the V, the other side of the V, and I'm just going to go all the way around and stop. I'm going to leave like how much is this? This is a yay. I'm going to leave yay big open at the center back so I can sew it together fancy. Let's do it. I'll show you. Coming up on it. Oh my gosh, it totally cut off. Okay, so what we're doing here, I am cutting off the excess. So I cut off all the excess bias, and I cut it crooked because this is what I did. And I left myself whoopsies room because I need it. I have enough whoopsies seam allowance. Whoopsies. I mean, I've been sewing for 20 years, but like, let me tell you something. Whoopsies is always good to have. A little bit of whoopsies. So I have this bias tape matching up at the center back. This is not like super technical, but this is how I like to do it because everything measures up and is pretty okay, perfect. Bias tape's pretty forgiving, so this is the way I like to do it. I am meeting them up at the center back here. I'm going to put a pin right here where I know this is where I need to sew, right? Okay, in here. I'm going to pull all of this out of the way so I can then seam this right here. I think this is going to look a little fancier, and then I'm going to put my pins this way so I actually can hold it a little better. This one pin was just a guide. Now I feel a little bit more confident to go ahead and pull this. I'm going to sew right along here. Now that that is sewn, what I can do then is open this up and make sure that everything fits in here. And it totally does. Look, there's no gaps. There's no weird things. I can now cut this off to a more reasonable seam allowance rather than having it be huge. Boop. Okay. Now, I can push this to one side, but it's actually, you know what? It's going to be better if I push it open, because then there'll be like even distribution and it won't get all weird and gappy. I mean, weird and clumpy. Oh, hot finger press. And now I'm going to go ahead and finish sewing from here to here. Just to give you some context to see what it looks like, there's the seam that I just did. Here is the inside. Wow, so profesh. What I need to do now is take this to the iron and press this down to about half. And then we can press this over, and then that will be my clean finished edge. Woo! I see the iron in my future. Cut to like me at the iron if ever. I always like to press my seams open first before I go ahead, and then I'm going to like press this in half, and then I'm going to press it down. So press your seams open first. Now that that is all done, I'm going to go ahead and press this in. Well, not half. Some of it's going to be in half. Some of it is going to be very small to match up, and then I can press it over. Okay, wish me luck. Some of this is pretty small. I believe in myself. Now that this is all folded in half, I'm going to then fold it down. I'm not going to understitch this, so I may have regrets later, but here we are. I'm going to leave a little bloop here, that's the technical term, so I don't see the bias tape from the outside. I don't know what the term is actually for this, but the bloop. I am just going to pin this and then top stitch this because the pattern's super active. Because the pattern's so active, I won't see any weird lines or anything like that. It'll just kind of like disappear. All of the top stitching will kind of just like disappear in the wild pattern. I'm just going to keep going around the neck, and then I can stitch it. I'm taking extra care around the V to make sure that all that mitered corner goodness stays mitered and cornered-y and good. Now this is all pinned up and looking like a weapon. I'm going to go ahead and top stitch it from the inside. So it's still inside top stitching. This is because I'm stitching on the top of it. I'm going to top stitch right along here to secure this down. Some of it's bloopy, but we'll be fine. We'll be fine. This part's a little tricky because there's not really like a guide to like run your fabric along. Ugh. How do I best describe this? You basically need to look for maybe there. It's like I'm like just on the outside of the inside. It's too hard to describe. Just use your best guess on your machine where you need to line up your stitches. It's tricky, but practice. Whoa, this is a thick part right there. Whoa. I'm going to keep going all the way around, meet up, and backstitch on the other side, and probably poke myself like a bajillion times. And there you have it, a nice refinished bias tape neck. I am going to steam this just because it's a little bit wobbly, and hopefully the bias will like back up, but we'll see. Now I can wear my beautiful tropical summertime dress during the summertime now that it's all fixed up.